Mira was a quiet girl with thoughtful eyes and a heart full of questions. At 10 years old, she had learned how to stay small in a world that often felt too big. Crowded classrooms made her anxious, loud voices made her shrink, and trying new things filled her with fear. She preferred the silence of books, the safety of her room, and the steady rhythm of her routine. When her parents had to travel overseas for a few weeks, Mira was sent to stay with her grandmother, Nene Rosa, in the countryside. Her grandmother's house was old and smelled of cinnamon and stories, and though the floors creaked with every step, it was a comforting place. But Mira still felt lonely. One rainy afternoon, with the sky pouring silver and the wind humming against the windows, Nene Rosa said, "Why don't you explore the attic, Anik? There's magic in old places." Mira hesitated. The attic had always felt mysterious, off-limits, filled with shadows and strange things. But something about the way her grandmother smiled made her curious. Lantern in hand, she climbed the wooden ladder slowly. The attic door creaked open, and a breath of cold, dusty air greeted her. Inside, she found a world paused in time. Stacks of books, old trunks, broken clocks, forgotten toys, yellowing photographs, each object whispered secrets from the past. Mira stepped carefully, the floorboards groaning beneath her. And then she saw it. Tucked away in the farthest corner, under a faded quilt, was a wooden bed. It was smaller than usual, with carved headboards shaped like leaves and stars. The wood shimmered faintly under the dim light, as if the bed itself was breathing. Drawn to it, Mira brushed away the dust and sat on the edge. It was warm. She ran her hand along the carvings and noticed tiny words etched in the wood in a language she didn't understand. Suddenly, a breeze stirred, though the windows were closed. The lantern flickered. Mira blinked. The bed pulsed with a soft glow. Heart racing, she lay down slowly, wrapping the quilt around her. It smelled of lavender and rain. The moment her head touched the pillow, the attic around her faded. The ceiling became sky, the walls melted into clouds. And the bed began to move. It lifted gently, silently, and floated through the roof as if it were nothing but mist. Mira clutched the blanket, gasping, but not afraid, because for the first time, something inside her felt right. The stars above sparkled like lanterns. The wind was kind, wrapping around her like a lullaby. She looked below and saw forests, oceans, cities, all glowing with possibilities. A voice echoed softly in her mind. "You are not just a dreamer, Mira. You are becoming." Before she could understand what that meant, the bed descended into a land of silver trees and whispering winds. Her journey had begun. The forest that lay at the foot of the Blue Mountain was ancient, older than even the mountain itself, some said. Known as the Forest of Whispers, its leaves rustled with secrets, and its shadows held memories that did not belong to any one age. Azura had only entered it once as a child, accompanied by her mother, Queen Elira. Even then, the trees had seemed to hum with voices. Now, as Orin the glowing stag carried her gently through the woods, Azura felt the presence of the forest in a different way, heavy, watchful, and waiting. "Why does it feel like the forest is holding its breath?" Lyric asked, landing on Azura's shoulder. "I don't know," she said. "But listen." The usual chatter of forest creatures, birds, frogs, and rustling leaves, was absent. Even the wind barely moved. The silence was deeper than before, like a held note stretched too long. Suddenly, a faint shimmer crossed the path, a ripple, like light on water. Azura held up her hand. "Stop." Orin paused. Azura slid off his back and approached the shimmer. As she moved, the air grew colder. Her breath puffed in front of her like mist. "Magic," Lyric whispered. "Old magic." Azura reached into her cloak and pulled out her mother's pendant. The crystal glowed softly, casting blue light ahead. The ripple pulsed once, then parted like a curtain. Beyond it was a path unlike any they had walked, a trail lined with trees whose bark shimmered silver and whose leaves whispered in tongues too old for words. Strange lights floated in the air, like fireflies made of starlight. Azura took a breath. "This is the whispering path. The trees here remember." They stepped onto the trail. The deeper they went, the more surreal the forest became. Time seemed to blur. Azura would blink and find herself remembering long-forgotten dreams or the sound of her mother's lullaby, though no one had spoken. "The forest is showing you pieces of your soul," Lyric said quietly, perching on her hood. "It's a test of who you really are." Hours passed, though it was hard to tell if it was day or night. Finally, they reached a glade bathed in soft moonlight. In its center stood a tall, hooded figure draped in robes made of moss and leaves. Its face was hidden, but its presence was undeniable, both warm and powerful. Azura stopped. Orin bowed his head. Lyric fluttered to her side. I am Azura, princess of the Blue Mountain, she said clearly. I seek the tree of balance. The figure raised its head. A voice, like wind through old branches, answered. All who seek must prove their truth. Speak your heart. Azura stepped forward. The mountain is in pain. Its rivers dry, its flowers silent, the voice of the world is fading, and I feel it slipping away from me. I don't want to lose the magic of listening, the connection between all living things. The figure said nothing. Azura continued. I don't want to rule with power. I want to serve with understanding. If the tree of balance is broken, I will find a way to mend it. The figure lifted a hand, and light poured from its palm, swirling around Azura like wind. It whispered words in a forgotten language, and suddenly, the forest around them shifted. The glade melted into a new space, a wide riverbed, dried and cracked. And from its center rose a creature of water, translucent and immense, with glowing eyes like deep ocean pearls. The river guardian, Lyric gasped. The guardian's voice echoed like waterfalls. You claim to listen, then listen to me. The rivers are angry, forgotten, dismissed. You ask for help, but do you hear our sorrow? Azura walked forward carefully. The dry ground crumbled under her feet. I do hear you, she said. But I don't understand yet. Teach me. The river guardian rose higher. Water coiled like serpents around it. Then hear this. The land withers because it has been taken for granted. Magic is not owed, it is earned through harmony. Azura closed her eyes. She listened, not just with ears, but with heart. She let go of fear and opened herself. She heard it. A murmur, low and broken. The memory of flowing water. The ache of dried streams. The sadness of being forgotten. She dropped to her knees and touched the ground. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't ask what you needed. I only thought of what we lost, not what you lost. The wind stilled. The guardian paused. Then, slowly, the water around it receded. The guardian's eyes softened. You have heard truly, it said. One piece of balance lies in compassion. It touched Azura's pendant, and a droplet of glowing water sank into the crystal. Azura gasped. The pendant pulsed brighter, and the dried riverbed around them shimmered. Faint green shoots began to sprout between the cracks. Then, in a blink, the glade returned. The hooded figure nodded once and vanished. Back on the whispering path, Azura leaned against a tree, catching her breath. That was only the first trial, Lyric said, awe in his voice. I know, Azura replied. She looked down at the pendant. A single droplet floated inside the crystal, glowing with soft blue light. Orin nuzzled her shoulder, ready to continue. Azura stood, brushing dust from her cloak. Then let's keep going. We're one step closer to the tree. She looked around at the forest. It still whispered, but now, it was softer, clearer, like a song remembering its tune. For the first time since her journey began, Azura smiled. The silence was beginning to lift. The wind was warmer now. As Mira soared higher on the magic bed, the stars around her twinkled like friendly eyes. Soft clouds brushed against her fingertips. She wasn't afraid anymore, only curious. Her heart, once shy and trembling, now beat with quiet courage. Below, a new world revealed itself, a garden unlike anything Mira had ever imagined. Suspended in the sky, it floated above the clouds like a dreamy island. Flowers the size of umbrellas bloomed in every color of the rainbow. Glowing vines climbed through the air, curling around sparkling waterfalls that flowed upward instead of down. Giant butterflies flitted between the blossoms, leaving trails of golden dust behind them. The bed landed softly in a circle of bluegrass that hummed a gentle tune beneath her feet. A small creature with petals for hair and wings like a hummingbird appeared, hovering just above her shoulder. Welcome to Solari, the creature sang. The sky garden of growth. Growth? Mira asked, enchanted. Yes, it chirped. Here, we nurture not just flowers, but dreams, feelings, and fears. Everything inside you has a seed, and here, those seeds bloom. Mira followed the creature, its name was Luma, along a path lined with talking tulips and trees that sighed with laughter. The garden shimmered with life, but Mira soon noticed that not all plants were thriving. Some wilted, despite the light. Some curled inward, their petals closed tightly. They're hurting, Mira said softly. Luma nodded. Yes, some seeds struggle to grow because the dreamers who planted them never believed they could. Mira touched a small flower shivering in the shade. It was pale and thin, its petals trembling. A tag at its base read, belonging. I know how this feels, Mira whispered. I used to feel like I didn't belong anywhere. As she spoke, the flower lifted its head ever so slightly. Mira gently cupped the blossom and said, but I've learned that being different doesn't mean being wrong. It means being you. The flower shimmered softly, turning a warmer shade of pink. Just then, the garden began to respond. Flowers leaned toward Mira, vines stretched playfully in her direction, and butterflies fluttered around her in joy. The air felt lighter. You have the gift, Luma said, glowing brighter. You care, and you believe. Mira smiled, but then a deep rumble echoed across the sky. The clouds darkened, and a cold wind swept through the garden. In the distance, a storm cloud approached, black, heavy, and fast. Luma's wings flickered nervously. It's the shadow wind. It tries to destroy fragile dreams. You must help protect the seeds. Without thinking, Mira ran through the garden, shielding the weakest plants with her arms and cloak. She sang gently to a frightened sunflower. She whispered encouragement to the smallest saplings. You are strong. You can grow. Don't give up. The storm swirled above her, lightning flashing. But something miraculous happened. The more she spoke, the more the flowers glowed. Together, they created a light so bright that the storm began to retreat. A single drop of rain touched her cheek, warm, like a tear. Then silence. The clouds broke, sunlight poured through, and the garden burst into radiant bloom. Every flower danced, every vine sang. Mira stood in the middle, glowing from the inside out. You saved the garden, Luma said. You helped the seeds believe in themselves. Mira looked around, overwhelmed by the beauty. I think, I helped myself believe, too. She felt something bloom in her own heart, something that had been waiting a long time. Confidence. The bed appeared once more, hovering just above a patch of laughing lilies. Time to go, Luma said. There are more seeds to awaken in other worlds, and maybe in other people. Mira climbed onto the bed, her smile wide and sure. As it lifted into the sky, Luma called out, never forget, what you water with love will always grow. The clouds parted, and Mira flew higher, her dreams growing roots that would last a lifetime. The sky turned a deep navy blue as Mira soared through the clouds once more. Stars flickered like lanterns in the distance, and the magic bed floated gently beneath her, cradling her like a dream. She had changed. Inside her was a growing strength, a light she hadn't known she had. But now, the light around her began to dim. Thick clouds rolled in, cold mist curled around the bed like fingers. A gray sea stretched out below, endless, churning, wild. Then she saw it. A dark island rose from the ocean, jagged and silent. No trees, no flowers, just cliffs, stone paths, and hollow caves. The bed descended, slow and steady, and Mira stepped off onto damp, echoing ground. The air was heavy. There was no color here. Only wind, and whispers. But these whispers were different from those in the kingdom of whispers. These were broken, sharp, and haunting. They circled Mira, tugging at her heart. You're not enough. Why did you even try? You'll never belong. Everyone else is better. Mira froze. The voices weren't strangers. They were her own. These were the words she had told herself, on days she felt invisible, when she didn't speak up, when she let fear decide for her. She pressed her hands over her ears. Stop, stop, but the wind only howled louder. A stone path appeared, winding up the cliffs. She felt drawn to it, somehow knowing that to leave the island, she had to climb it. Step by step, Mira began to walk, even though the wind pushed against her. Each step, another echo rose. You're too quiet. You're not brave. You always hide. Tears burned her eyes. But then she remembered the boy in the kingdom of whispers. The flowers in Solari. The storm she had faced. She stopped, clenched her fists, and said aloud, those voices aren't who I am anymore. The wind paused. Mira took another step. They're part of me, but they're not all of me. Another step. I may be quiet, but I am kind. I may be scared, but I try anyway. That's bravery too. The echoes began to soften, turning from jagged cries to gentle murmurs. She reached the top of the cliff. There, carved into the stone, was a mirror, ancient and cracked. When Mira looked into it, she didn't see her reflection. She saw every moment she had doubted herself, and every moment she had kept going anyway. She saw her holding the trembling flower, sitting beside the sad boy, running through the storm. She whispered, I forgive myself. And the mirror glowed. The echoes around her faded into silence. Then, the silence broke, not with fear, but with a new sound, her own voice, strong and steady, echoing back down the cliffs. I am worthy. The mist began to lift. The ocean calmed, and the bed reappeared, floating down gently to where she stood. As Mira climbed onto it, she looked back one last time at the cliffs of the Island of Echoes. They no longer frightened her. They had given her something precious, understanding. The bed rose again, higher and higher, the stars above welcoming her return. Somewhere in the sky, a soft voice whispered, not to frighten her, but to remind her. Only by facing your past can you rise into your future. Mira closed her eyes as the wind carried her toward her next dream. The stars faded into morning light. The bed floated through soft dawn skies, drifting lower until Mira could see a wide valley below. In the center stood a strange and silent city, vast stone roads, towering buildings, and statues as tall as trees. But something was wrong. The statues had no faces. Their bodies were carved with detail, robes, armor, wings, but their heads were blank stone ovals, smooth and expressionless. Not a single person moved through the streets. It was as though time had stopped. The bed lowered to the edge of the city, and Mira stepped off cautiously. A cold wind swept through, carrying the scent of stone and memory. There was no laughter here. No voices. No songs. Just silence. Mira walked past the statues. She noticed each one had a light, dim, flickering, glowing deep in their chests. Some were barely visible, some pulsed faintly, others were nearly out. As she approached one, she gasped. It looked like a child. The robe, the size, the hands, but the face was gone. In the smooth stone was her own reflection. She stepped back. A voice echoed faintly behind her, not from a person, but from the air. This is the city of forgotten faces. She turned. A figure in a long robe stood nearby, face hidden behind a silver mask. The robe shimmered with threads of memory, images appeared on it and vanished again, a girl crying, a boy painting, someone laughing in the rain. The figure spoke again. This is where dreams go when people forget who they are. When they stop believing in themselves, their faces fade. They forget their voice, their passion, their truth. Mira felt a chill. Why are their lights still glowing? Because a part of them still remembers. A small part that refuses to give up. But it needs help to shine again. The figure reached out, placing a hand on Mira's shoulder. You've faced your fear. You've found kindness. Now, help them remember. But how? Mira asked. Remind them who they are. The figure vanished like smoke. Mira walked to the first statue. She placed her hand on the stone chest. It was cold. She closed her eyes and whispered, you were a painter. You loved colors and skies and stories. You mattered. You still matter. The stone pulsed beneath her hand. A flicker of light burst in the statue's chest. A single line appeared on the blank face, a soft smile. Mira gasped. She moved to the next. This one held a book. You once believed your words could change lives. Don't stop now. Another spark. Another smile. She continued, one after another. A musician. A gardener. A dreamer. A dancer. With every word she offered, their lights grew stronger. Their faces returned. Eyes. Smiles. Tears. And then, the city changed. Laughter echoed. Footsteps returned. People, real people, stepped out of stone. Some were children, some old. All of them looked around in wonder, as if waking from a long sleep. One girl, not much older than Mira, ran up and hugged her. I remember now. Thank you. The stone buildings shifted. Color returned to the walls. Flowers bloomed in cracks. The city was alive again. Mira stood in the middle of it, breathing hard, her hands glowing faintly. She had reminded them, and in doing so, reminded herself. She looked up. The bed was waiting. She turned once more to the newly restored city. The people waved, smiling, tears in their eyes. You helped us remember, someone called. Your voice matters. You were light. Mira climbed onto the bed. As it rose once again, she felt something new in her heart. Not just courage, not just kindness. The sky grew darker again. This time, not with storm or sadness, but with something more mysterious, stillness. As Mira soared through the quiet skies on her magic bed, she noticed time itself seemed to slow. The stars above stopped twinkling. The wind barely moved. Even her heartbeat felt slower, as if waiting for something. The bed began to descend toward a jagged mountainside, where a deep crack in the rock opened like a hidden mouth. From within came a soft, ticking sound, like hundreds of clocks counting the seconds in silence. The cave was wide, glowing faintly from within, and the bed stopped at the entrance. Mira stepped off cautiously. Instantly, the temperature dropped. Inside the cave, time did not flow like in the world above. It drifted in glowing strands, like smoke, swirling through the air. Clocks hung in midair, their hands moving at different speeds. Some spun too fast, others didn't move at all. Hourglasses floated upside down, sideways, and sideways again, with golden sand caught mid-fall. It was beautiful and strange. She walked further in, drawn to the cave's heart. Then, she saw them, people. Or rather, traces of them. Faint outlines of men, women, and children, some curled up as if waiting, some reaching toward the sky, others staring blankly into nothing. They weren't statues, or ghosts. They were, paused, frozen, stuck in time. A voice echoed from deeper in the cave, soft and old. Welcome to the cave of lost time. Where moments are forgotten, dreams delayed, and lives are paused by fear, regret, or doubt. Mira turned to see an old woman, draped in robes of starlight and thread. Her hair was silver, her eyes glowing with years. Who are they? Mira asked, heart aching. They are those who waited too long, the woman replied. Those who said, not today. Maybe tomorrow. Someday. But someday never came. Mira felt her chest tighten. There, stuck, yes, the woman said. Stuck in moments of hesitation, fear, distraction, or waiting for perfect timing. She turned to Mira. But there's hope. Sometimes, all it takes is a spark, to remind them that time is precious. That now is all we truly have. Mira walked up to the first figure, a boy, no older than her, frozen with his hand reaching toward a floating hourglass. Carved in light above his head were the words, "When I'm ready." She whispered, "You are ready." A pulse of warmth ran from her hand into his. The hourglass turned. The sand began to fall. His eyes blinked open. Tears filled them. "Thank you," he breathed. Mira moved on. A girl sitting with arms around her knees, glowing words above her, "I'm not good enough yet." Mira knelt. "You are enough. You'll grow as you go. But don't stop now." The girl blinked, her body shimmering into motion. One by one, Mira moved through the cave, awakening those caught in hesitation and delay. "I don't have time. No one will care. I'll wait until I'm stronger." To each one, she gave a word of courage, a spark of presence. And each time, time began again. The cave glowed brighter. Time itself began to flow more clearly, hourglasses aligned, clocks steadied, ribbons of glowing seconds sped forward in gentle, beautiful rhythm. The woman smiled. "You have a gift, child. You don't just travel through dreams. You wake them." Mira stood at the center of the cave now, surrounded by people walking again, smiling, running toward the future they had paused for too long. She looked down at her hands. They shimmered faintly, golden. Not magic in the way she'd once thought, but hope. The kind that wakes hearts, not just dreams. The magic bed floated down once more, its blanket fluttering in a breeze that now moved freely through the cave. As she climbed aboard, the woman called to her, "Do not wait, dear child. And remind the world, today is a gift. A chance. A beginning." Mira nodded, and the bed lifted once more, this time not just carrying her, but the dreams of those she'd left behind, now awakened and free to soar. As the magic bed soared once more into the heavens, Mira felt different. But there was one more place her journey would take her before she returned home, a place the bed drifted toward without wind, as if pulled by purpose. The clouds below parted to reveal a shimmering platform floating in the sky. It was vast, silver, and surrounded by thousands of glowing mirrors, all different shapes and sizes. Some were tall as trees, others small as teacups, and some floated upside down, spinning slowly in midair. The bed gently came to a stop. Mira stepped off and felt her reflection ripple in the mirrors nearby. She glanced at the nearest one, and gasped. The reflection wasn't just her, it was another version of her. This Mira wore a crown of books and smiled with pride as she read to a circle of children. In the next mirror, a different version of her painted bright murals on a wall. In another, she wore armor and stood tall on a mountaintop. But not all were joyful. One version sat in the corner of a dark room, curled up, tears falling silently. Another stood in front of a crowd, terrified to speak. One walked through a forest alone, looking lost and unsure. Mira's heart ached. "Why are they all me?" she whispered. A voice spoke behind her, soft, kind, and familiar. "They are all the selves you've been, or could be. The dreams you've held, the fears you've faced, the choices you've made, and the ones you haven't yet." Mira turned. A glowing figure stood nearby, neither young nor old. Its face shimmered like starlight and held 1,000 expressions. "I am the Mirror Keeper," the figure said. "And this is the Hall of Possibilities." Mira stepped closer to a mirror showing her arguing with someone and then walking away, angry and alone. She winced. "I don't like that one," she whispered. The Mirror Keeper nodded. "We don't have to like all our reflections. But we must learn from them. Every choice shapes us." In another mirror, Mira saw herself sharing her voice in front of her classmates, bold and honest, her hand raised high. I want to be that version, she said. You already are, the mirror keeper replied. The moment you believe in yourself. Mira stood at the center of the hall, spinning slowly as mirrors surrounded her. It was overwhelming, but beautiful. Each version of her had value. Each one had something to teach. The shy Mira had taught her gentleness. The crying Mira had shown her courage. The dreaming Mira had brought her hope. The bold Mira had reminded her to step forward. The mirror keeper reached out a hand and placed a glowing orb in Mira's palm. Inside, tiny mirror fragments swirled like stardust. This is your truth, the figure said. Not one version, not one dream, but all of them. You are not just one thing, Mira. You are many things, and that is your strength. The orb melted into her hand, becoming light. Mira stood straighter. The mirrors around her began to rise higher, floating up into the sky, twinkling like stars. And then, the magic bed returned, its sheets glowing with gentle light. Mira turned to the mirror keeper. What do I do now? The figure smiled. Be all of you. Be kind. Be curious. Be brave. Be uncertain. Be growing. And most of all, be real. Mira climbed onto the bed. As it lifted into the sky once more, the mirrors below shimmered like a constellation made just for her. She closed her eyes. Not afraid. Not unsure. Just ready. The journey was almost complete. As the bed soared through a sky painted with hues of orange and gold, Mira felt a peace she had never known before. The stars that had once seemed so far now glimmered like friends waving goodbye. The wind, once cold and unfamiliar, was now warm and welcoming. Mira hugged her knees to her chest on the bed and whispered, "Thank you." Not just to the bed, but to every part of the adventure, the sky garden of Solari, the kingdom of whispers, the island of echoes, the cave of lost time, the city of forgotten faces, the hall of mirrors. Each had given her something. Courage, kindness, understanding, belief. Now, she was coming home. The clouds parted gently, revealing her small town below. There was the schoolyard, the old oak tree she used to climb, the bakery that always smelled like cinnamon, her own house. The bed floated down through her open attic window. Her room looked just as she had left it, books stacked neatly, her nightlight still glowing faintly, the air filled with the quiet hush of early morning. As the bed gently touched down, Mira felt it sigh beneath her, like it too was ready to rest. She stood slowly. The room felt smaller than she remembered, but warmer too, like it was ready for the new version of her. Mira looked around, unsure what to say. But then, on her desk, she noticed something shimmering. It was a small, glowing charm, made of mirror glass, a petal from Solari, a grain of golden sand, and a whisper of wind. All the places she had visited, woven into one tiny token. She picked it up and smiled. It was real. It had all been real. She looked at the bed, but now, it was just a bed again. Wooden, still, ordinary, no longer glowing, but Mira knew better. Some magic wasn't meant to stay in the sky. Some magic lived in you, carried forward in every step, every word, every act of kindness and courage. She heard footsteps downstairs. It was morning, a new day, a new beginning. Mira opened her window and looked out over the world, not with fear or worry, but with wonder. She would still have hard days. She would still feel unsure sometimes. But now she knew, she could trust herself. The voice inside her was strong. And she would never forget the magic bed that had carried her through her dreams, across the sky, and into the truest parts of her heart. Moral lesson: believe in your voice, your dreams, and your worth. Even in moments of doubt, you carry within you the power to be kind, courageous, and true. Every part of you, your fears, your hopes, your questions, helps you grow. And the greatest magic is becoming who you truly are. For more motivation stories, please like and subscribe this channel. Thanks and God bless.